Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help grow this channel. It is most appreciated. And to everyone who has subscribed so far, thank you very much. Now, today is April 18th, 2020, and we have a very special lady on the podcast. Her name is DeAnne Dawsey. She attended the Rebekah Home for Girls in the late 90s. In a Texas Monthly article, the link will be in the description below. She won her court case against the Roloff home, and the result of that court case led to the shutdown of the Rebekah Home for Girls. But let's let her tell the story, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, DeAnne Dawsey.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, I'm DeAnne Dawsey, and I was in the Rebekah Home, I want to say it would have been 98. I was in there, to be honest, I don't even know how long I was there. Time kind of just does its own when you're in a place like that.
Right.
But it wasn't very long. I would say under a month. And, at the end of it, I was the one who got the place closed down out of Texas, at least. And then they reopened in another state.
Arizona. That's where they opened.
Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And so, getting it closed down was quite easy I left the place. I was put on a plane to come home with broken ribs. So instead of taking me to a healthcare professional like you would typically, they just put me on a plane and my family was there. And, it's funny because when you were asking if we were going to do this today, and I started I was looking at some of the other interviews and reading, and then I even listened to a couple of them.
Okay.
Including that one that on Dr. Phil. It wasn't Rebekah, but it was another school.
It was Bethesda.
Very similar.
Right. The Bethesda Home for Girls.
And
that was also affiliated with Lester Roloff.
See, I think they all were, though. Well, the more I was reading, I think it seems that more of them were, even if it was just affiliated as in they got their ideas from him on how that they would, do whatever they were doing to the kids. It's funny. I don't know exactly why, it was closed down originally in Texas back when, Roloff was still running it.
Right.
I don't know why that was. I knew that it had something to do with, something.
It was closed.
It was closed.
Right. It was closed because of the abuse that was going on, and also Lester Roloff refused to take a license from the state.
Mm-hmm.
He said that his license.
Well, and that's what's so weird to me is I knew that the state of Texas had changed that at one time church was separate from state.
Right.
So they could do whatever they wanted, and the state couldn't even look into it. Well, that was changed back, and I guess it would have been about 98 or 97 when Bush was in office. He changed it back to how it was before, which is how they reopened in Texas.
Right. Bush changes the law, and then it reopens again.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the law has gone back to what it was. I'm not sure.
Yes, it has.
It has, yeah.
I
guess because of my lawsuit and the other child that was involved in the lawsuit I was in.
Right. That's why they moved to Arizona, because Arizona, you don't have to have a license.
Yeah. Well, for the life of me, it's funny because I look back and my mom, of course, feels horrible for putting me there. And, I wasn't one of these kids that, most of these stories I'm seeing, they grew up in very abusive families and things like that. I wasn't. In fact, I was just a spoiled little brat. I was a brat, yeah, but not because, that's how I was raised. And, I was never told no. And, when I was put in because simply my mom didn't like my boyfriend.
That's it?
And I was about to turn 17, and she knew that when I turned 17, I could leave the house.
Okay.
So, it was like a last-minute chance to try to get me to do exactly what she wanted, which was, graduate and all that, which I did since do. But and I get, now I'm a parent myself, so I get where she was at with it. But I feel like more parents need to know that just because when you walk into a building that it seems all nice for like 5 minutes when you're there, it doesn't mean that it is.
Right. You have to do your due diligence. And, 1990, you said 1998, the internet was up at that time. So people could
Yeah,
have.
it was just not as broad as it is now. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, definitely we had a computer. Yes, she could have done a little bit more research into it. I don't know if she even knew how to use the internet in that form, though. Remember, that's when it just got started,
Right. Right.
where we were having them in our homes. I mean, maybe we had it in our house for a year, but it's not just that. It's, for one, there's two different kinds of people that are girls or even boys in these homes. There's the ones that you immediately, they go in and they just take the rules as they are, and they do whatever they're told to do. And they're easily brainwashed, because that's typically, I mean, any of them that are religious affiliated boarding schools, they're brainwashing. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah. That's.
And and then there's the other type of child who is not going to just say, okay, well, I'll just not talk for the whole day, or, I'll do exactly as you say. There are children that are not going to be that way. And I am definitely one of those children, or was a child at that time.
Right.
And so what they do is they come down hard on those ones, because they know that everybody has a breaking point. Did they break me? No.
Their job
Did
was.
they get close? Yes.
Their job was. Their job was to beat the devil out of you. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And they really thought that they really think in their minds that they're doing a good thing.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know why, but they do.
Because the Bible says,
and
it's spare the rod, spoil the child.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree that children do that. I don't disagree with spanking.
Oh, no, neither do I.
But it has to be done properly.
Right. I mean,
and that's a whole different ballgame of a whole different thing, because there's a lot of parents out there that do disagree with it, and that's fine. That's your choice. We all parent differently.
Right.
But, but my mom, when she went and she looked at this place, she thought it was just great. Yes, she knew that I wouldn't like the way that they would make us dress. And she did her best to shop and find me the cutest thing she could to take. I mean, I got there. I guess let me explain the story. I mean, you can read it on Texas Monthly as well.
It's going to be on the link below.
But, I got in the car with my grandparents that day. It was both of my grandparents. I'm very close with my grandfather and my grandmother. Uh-huh. But, and my mom and I, and we were supposedly just going on a day trip to Corpus Christi, because my grandfather needed a part for his tractor. So I didn't know anything of it. There was a point when we stopped at a gas station, and my grandfather turned to me, and I'll never forget this. And he said, I just want you to know that we love you, and, anything we do, we're doing just so that we know that you'll have a good life. And that should have told me right there that something was wrong. And we went to a tractor store, and he walked in, and they didn't have the part. He walked back out,
Right.
And then we showed up there, and, I mean, I knew it was bad when we got there. I knew that it was going to be like, and I had the choice to either kick and scream, and, but they were going to get me in there regardless. There was guards.
Oh, they have.
I mean, a lot of these places are like prisons, or, maybe more of the home that I was in, I guess, I don't really know how they work, to be honest, or a lot about I know that my mom was paying for me to be there. But it's to my understanding that there are some people there that weren't paying, that the state ordered them there, or, something to do with that.
Well, see, I've heard a lot of Lester Roloff sermons, and it's like nails on a chalkboard, but that's another story.
Oh, I agree. I saw that he has, there's a story or a YouTube story on him out there. I don't think I could even play it, because that was the most traumatizing thing to me, to be honest. I was there, and again, it's funny because even when I was starting to watch all these other stories, it was bringing all this stuff up that I almost forgot about. Because again, I wasn't there very long, but what's crazy is I couldn't tell you how long I was there. Like, I remember going to eat one time that I was there. I mean, I know that they fed us; that was not an issue there, but that's just really odd that of all the time that I was there, I only remember going to eat one time. And that time I remember going to eat because that's when my ribs I must have moved bad or something. And it made it so bad I couldn't even stand up straight. And it wasn't even an hour later that I was in an airport being flown back.
Now, Lester Roloff, in one of his sermons, he said that he takes girls in to the Rebekah Home, but at no charge. He doesn't charge for this, but obviously he was. So
yeah, I think that it was mainly like I think that, I mean, I'm assuming I've heard different stories with all of them, but I do know that some of them, and there was a lot of different homes. There wasn't just Rebekah. I mean, they had one that was called something else that was for pregnant women,
right?
Girls, young girls that were pregnant.
It was the Bethesda Home for Girls. They also had the Lighthouse, the Jubilee, the Anchor, and I guess there was a place in Arizona called the Regeneration Reservation where they had the Native Americans. So, there was a lot of places. Yeah.
So, but I mean, and he says that he didn't make any money off of it, but yet he was on a private plane when he died, wasn't he?
He had 3 planes.
Yeah, like that's not normal,
No.
Especially in that time. But anyways, my mom was paying for me to be there, and it was not cheap. I want to say that it was close to $20,000.
Oh.
For that year that I would have been there or more. I could ask her, but I'm not 100% sure on how much, but I remember thinking that it was a lot of money she was paying for me to be there.
Wow.
And, but so, I go in and my mom has got boxes of stuff. I guess there was different rooms you could get. I was in the center. So I had my own room, but it had an adjoined room next, but it had a door that was there. The door was taken off the hinges. And the reason that was because I was new. So I had to have this girl that had been there for a really long time and was very brainwashed. She had to watch over me. To make sure that I wasn't going to hurt myself or others, or I don't even know. But then on the other side of the hall from me, there was a row of rooms, and they had 2 beds in each one, and then a Jack and Jill bathroom that was shared between another room with 2 more beds. I just had one with my own bed and my own bathroom. It was all to myself.
Oh, really?
But
maybe those.
And I think it's probably from what I was told, typically when you first get there, you don't get a room like that. But I guess because my mom was paying for me to be there.
I was going to say that. Maybe because your mother was paying, you got the special room, and the girls who came in where their parents were not paying, maybe that's what they got, and they had to share bathrooms and everything else. Yeah.
And I do. I think that's honestly what it was. I'm sure my mom told them. I was pretty much an only child most of my life. I was 10 before my brother was born. But then I only had 2 younger brothers that are 10 and 15 years younger than me. So I was pretty much an only child. Oh. So sharing a room probably wasn't a good idea to put, this spoiled brat girl in a room with, 2 other girls or however many. But yeah, boxes of stuff. I mean, anything you can think of. And Miss Cameron is the lady who was running it at this time.
Faye Cameron.
She was going through all of this stuff and saying, oh, well, she can't have that, and she can have this. And another thing that I feel like parents should have been a real big red flag to me is that if your child isn't allowed to contact you for so many days, and I think that it was for a month, I had to go, or it was either 2 weeks or a month that I couldn't contact her via phone. And even then, when you were able to use the phone, they had their finger on the end thing, the old timey phones,
right?
And they would end it if you said something they didn't like.
Oh, they were secretly monitoring your calls.
Oh no, yeah, they would stand right there. You couldn't even talk on the phone without them being right in front of you. And I only made one phone call, and really I wasn't even there long enough to have made that phone call. The only reason I made that phone call is because it was like a reward for, me trying to talk me down, because they couldn't figure out how to break me. And I mean, we'll get there later, and then even our letters, like if you wrote a letter and you were saying that, okay, well, this, and this is happening, and that's not right, they would throw your letter away. They wouldn't send it.
Oh, wow.
And, I've heard other people say this too, or the ones that you did get, and, whatever, it was blacked out, like you're in jail.
Right.
Like they do to people in jail. They will black out things. And I didn't find this out until I was out, and this will be more of that end story, but they were telling my family I was crazy.
Well, of course, they're going to tell your parents that.
And that not only was I crazy, but I had the devil in me, which is just insane. Like, and I mean, because this is not, the 70s when, a lot of this stuff was more common.
Oh, yes.
With these homes. The 70s and the 80s. No, this was, 99, 2000, 98 to 2000 era.
I was at
There was the internet. Parents should have known more.
I was at the Rebekah Christian school behind the Rebekah Home in 82. So yes, I know it was interesting to say the least. We got our share of discipline, and there is a difference between discipline and abuse. There's a line there that you don't cross.
Yeah, there is. And I agree with you there, 110%. Yeah, but they're crossing the line, because to them, and this is not just, again, I'm going to say this again, I feel like this is almost all of the religious-oriented homes like this. They're only using this discipline to break you, because that's what it's all about. And yes, they'll say that they're doing it because that's what's best for you. If you become exactly as they are, then you will end up being a good person.
Did they ever have?
And I still believe in God. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I know that there's a lot of girls out there that probably, for one, there's a lot of girls out there that have gone through a lot more than I went through. But there are also a lot of girls out there that have gone through less and still don't believe in God.
Well, I interviewed Cindy from the Bethesda home, and she told me she can't even go into a church anymore. She can't even get near one because of what happened.
But what she went through, I actually listened to that story just a little while ago. I mean, that's just horrible.
Yes.
I was never sexually touched or anything like that. Mine was physical abuse and mental, 110% mental. But I guess back to the story of, what it is that, so, I got in, they went through my stuff, and my parents left, and I was told I was not going to be able to talk to them on the phone for, 2 weeks to a month, and that was if I behaved. So, but I could write notes, which I did, or letters, and which I did. And and every letter pretty much I wrote either went to them blacked out, or I just eventually just wrote what they wanted me to write. And my mom and my grandmother were on the phone with Miss Cameron at least daily, trying to see how things were going. But so then at the end of all that, it was my first day in the school, which was behind the Rebekah Home.
Right. And
it's kind of it kind of reminds me of how it was set up was kind of like a voting thing, but without the curtain.
Yes, I remember that.
It was like a little man-made little walls, kind of in between each person.
They had dividers,
so that you wouldn't talk.
Yes.
But I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, I had been in college prep school, yes, but that's a normal everyday school. They put me in this little cubicle and said, "Do this," and that's all the instructions I was given.
Did you have?
So I, like most teenagers would do, looked to the person to my right, and I said, "What am I supposed to be doing?" And that's why I was in trouble. I talked. So they told me I needed to write 100 sentences saying I will not talk in class, or I will not talk. And I wouldn't. I said, I'm not going to do that under any circumstances. that I said, I simply was asking what I was supposed to be doing. It's not like I'm over here having a gossip hour or something. And because I refused to do that, they locked me in a room. And this room was similar to the room that I was in my bedroom. The only thing is that everything was taken out of the room. Like the sink was still there, and the toilet was still there, but the nozzles that come out of the bathtub, they were removed, and the bathtub was still physically there, but everything was removed. All the furniture was removed from the room, except for there was a small chair, like a little chair, and then there was a mattress on the floor. All the doors were removed from the inside of the room. Like there was a door locking me in it, yes. But like the closet door had been removed and the bathroom door had been removed, and that's it. They had taken the mirror down, and they said that you will sit in here or stay in here until you write these sentences. And I was like, you all have lost your freaking minds. If y'all think I'm going to write these sentences, you have met the wrong person. And I mean, I did. And but then they started playing Lester Roloff sermons over the intercom in the room.
Right there's torture enough. Right there.
Yeah, that is physical, and I'm not joking. Like that, that's the kind of thing that they do to prisoners of war.
Yes, propaganda.
Like for real.
Propaganda, yes.
And so what did I do? I was a teenager. Think about this. Like, no, I might not have been this like horrible child. No, but I was a teenager. I was still rebellious to some extent.
What teenager isn't?
And so I started screaming rap songs, like the worst rap songs I'd ever heard, all kinds of profanity and talking about drugs. They really probably thought I had the devil in me.
Well,
to me, it was hilarious. I mean, to an extent, because they're thinking, oh well, I'll play all this sermon and that'll get the devil out of her. Well, no, that just made me mad.
Yes.
And so I did, and I screamed it, and then it got to a point I was just like, oh my God. So then I pretended like I was insane, like I know you've seen a movie where there was someone in a corner, in a chair, rocking back and forth, like staring off into space, right?
In the fetal position. Just
so I did that.
Going, yes.
And that did no good. They took the chair from me. So then this is like, I'm in here for 2 days now. By this time.
Okay.
And the sermons didn't stop. If the sermon stopped, then it was the singing over the intercom. Oh. Or somebody, because when you were there every night, we all came into this like living room area, and we had to read certain Bible verses. And that was every night. That happened, and then we sung a song and we prayed, and so I mean that was just every single night though. Like I probably would have known more of the Bible by heart had I stayed in very long. But I did go a long while where I really disassociated from any form of church and stuff like that. But and so 2 days of that, and that's through the night as well. They were playing this. And I'd had it. I was like, are y'all going to freaking let me out of here? I mean, they were bringing me like sandwiches in to eat, like the same thing the whole time. And she was like, as soon as you write those sentences. And I said, well, then I guess I'm going to be in here a while. Well, I got pissed and I went into the closet because, the way that place was made is parts of it were, like paneling, like wood paneling walls, like they had back in the 70s and 80s. And the closet that I was in that was the back wall to where the couch was in the living room area. Okay. And I only noticed this that night because when they did turn it off for a while the other girls were in there doing the Bible verses that night, and I could hear them through it. I mean, plain as day, because paneling is it's thin. You can hear through it. It's paper thin.
That's true.
And so by the time that I'd woke up the next morning, I was like kicking a hole. I was going to get out of that room. And they ended up catching me do it. And once they did that, she came in, and again, I'm still singing my rap songs. And I only know like 2. So it was probably quite annoying. In fact, I think that was like the time of like South Park Mexicans.
Oh, okay.
And so there was the one about merry-go-round or something. I don't know. It's talking about weed.
Talking about weed.
And yeah, and then I had a friend, and one of my best friends dated a guy that was like, thought he was like gangster. You know, again, we're teenagers.
Right.
And he played this one song for us, and I'll never forget it because I thought it was so ghetto, like so trashy. And that was another one of the songs I was singing, but I only knew like a line of it. And it was like, and the reason I remembered it is, I'm going to say it because it's a little inappropriate. But it was
Go
like,
ahead.
Killer, what the F you gonna do? I'm going to clock my 9 on you, crazy mother.
Right.
Guess the next word. And so, but I'm screaming this. And that, I knew that it would be like, that was so inappropriate to even say. But at the time, I'm thinking these people are freaking nuts. And I knew it would piss them off. So those are the 2 songs I'm singing over and over and over again. And literally the only 2 rap songs I knew. And so I'm kicking this hole in the wall, and I just got to where there was a physical little bit of hole in the wall, and Miss Cameron came in, and she was like, if you don't stop, I don't even know what she said, but she threatened me. And I was like, basically, screw you. I mean, like,
Right.
I'm not going to write the sentences. I suggest you let me out of here and send my ass home. And so she walks away again, and then she comes back with the other lady that I guess was her helper. I don't remember her name. I think someone said her name was like Heather or Miss Heather or something, but I could be wrong. And she was a good-sized woman, and I'm saying this as nicely as I possibly can. Like, she was a big girl. And I, at the time, I'm 5'8"-ish, and I probably weighed 90 pounds, soaking wet. And so they come in, the 2 of them, and right behind them, there's this guy who's one of the guards at the front of the building, or the gate. And he is like 300 pounds at least, I swear to the Lord above.
Wow.
And they come in and they hold me down, and they duct tape my legs together and my arms behind my back. But I mean, in all this, I'm like sweating because I'm trying to fight them off of me. And so it took me like 5 seconds to get out of the duct tape. And they did it pretty tight, but because of the sweat, it wouldn't stick.
Right.
But so I was probably out of it, at least by my hands, before they even made it out of the room. But the big lady, after they got me down in duct tape, she turned around and kicked me dead in my ribs.
Wow.
And then they left the room, and I ended up writing the stupid sentences, which I only did it because I wanted out of the room, because that was torture. I mean, like, through and through, like, the breaking of the ribs was nothing compared to being in that room having to listen to that.
Well, I don't know. I've never broken ribs, but I'm sure that smarted really good.
It is one of the most painful things I've ever broken. It really is. And because it hurts to breathe.
Right, but sometimes
to even just breathe.
You got to be careful.
That is painful.
But you got to be careful sometimes, because you got.
And it was every rib on my right side that was broken.
Right, but I mean,
from then, yeah, and so, it was nighttime when that happened, when all this occurred. I wrote the sentences. They put me back in my room. Didn't think much of it. The next day I wake up and I can't even stand up straight. Like, I'm having to like hunch down so that I can even breathe. And I didn't, I'd never, in fact, at that time I had broken one bone in my body, and I was like 5 when that happened. So I didn't even remember that. But we got up to go to, I guess it was breakfast that morning, and all the girls were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, I cannot even, if I stand up, I cannot breathe. And I mean, it bringing tears to my eyes, like, that's how bad it hurt. And so they saw that, like, they were pretty much around us at all times, Miss Cameron and that other lady. And I was like in the dining room to eat breakfast, and breakfast wasn't even over yet, and they had me pulled out and they had me packing. Like, just basic stuff. Yeah. Like, as soon as they realized, and what they should have done is taken me to the hospital,
right.
Which, and I don't know, for people that don't know a lot about it, but in this school, at least, they had our parents sign away rights to us.
Really?
so that they could, yeah, so that they could take you to the hospital if something happened.
Well, obviously it didn't work
But
because they didn't take you.
no, they didn't. Yeah, they should have taken me to the hospital. And so, but regardless, so they had me on a plane within hours, and I was flying back to Houston. And I remember hearing that the other girl's story that you had, that she was talking about how they put her on a plane.
Cindy?
And how it is. It's like crazy because, you know, one minute you're like in this place where there's not a joy in anything because that's what they're doing is they're trying to break you. And it's like, and then all of a sudden you can breathe again, but there's all this around you. I mean, I wasn't in there that long, so I couldn't even imagine what it would feel like if you were in there for a year or, you know, even 6 months. But it was very crazy. And you're like shell shocked almost. Like you don't even know if you should talk. But they put me on the plane. I got there, and my grandfather was at the airport, and I'll never forget this either, is he was standing, you know, like I would say a good distance away from where I got off, and
Right.
he had a cop with him. I was like, what's going on? And when I got to him, and he was like, well, they called your mom and Mimi, and they were like, well, you are crazy. And so we didn't know what to do. So we brought this police officer, and they were transferring me to a psych ward, like all throughout this. I mean, I'm not joking. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. So I'm like, you know, at the same time, like at first I was like this sigh of relief. Like I just did this. Like I got out of this place that all these girls are trapped in. And I was like, well, Grandpa, I think y'all probably should take me to the hospital first. And he was like, well, you know, it's a hospital too. So regardless, the police officer follows me and my grandfather out, and he doesn't actually ride with us too. But then I get transported to the, you know, Kingwood Pines, or I think is what it's called, but it's a mental health facility in, you know, my area at the time. And they take me in this room, and they, you know, they start asking me questions, and I tell them everything that had happened. And it started out, I was in like this small room where, you know, like I was a crazy person. And by the end of it, though, they had the whole family in this big room with a humongous like board table.
Okay.
And they're telling, and in front of me, they're telling my mother, they're like, ma'am, to be honest, your daughter is not insane or have any sort of, you know, it's nothing like that. She has been abused. And
Yeah.
she was like, and the lady told her, you need to take her to the hospital to be checked. And so we walked back out of there, and I refused to go to my mom's. I was really mad at her because, you know, she should have seen more to it, you know, and that's your job as a parent, is to protect your children from that. And again, I didn't go through as bad as some of these other girls have gone through, and guys too. I mean, but it was her job. That was her one job in life as a parent, is to make sure that you don't put me in danger, you know?
Right.
And she failed. And so I went to my grandparents' house and stayed there for a few weeks, and I called CPS, and you know, they took a case against the Roloff homes. And I think we hired an attorney, and another kid came forward, a little boy came forward, and from my understanding, he had like, you know, he had sprained one ankle and broke one ankle, and sprained one hand and broke one arm. I mean, like major, like some like major
Right.
things. And we sued him, and I ended up getting a pretty penny out of it. But it wasn't about money. It was about them being closed down.
Well, you know, what's funny is,
and you know, it's,
I said, what's funny is, well, not funny, but they said that you were crazy, but yet in all the Roloff sermons that I've heard, Roloff would say, these mental institutions are filled up today. They don't need that. They need Jesus. Jesus will fix them. but yet you are so unfixable that they send you
Yeah.
to the place that Roloff never wanted to send anybody and say, "Oh,
Mhm.
you don't have demons.
That's funny.
You're
I didn't even
crazy."
know that. Like, I if I really like tried to do the math, and because I was doing that today actually, I was like, how long was I really there? And that's insane that you don't even know how long you're somewhere. And I mean, like, obviously there was the 2 days that I was in the room, and there was the one day that I went to class. So that's 3 days. I don't think I was even there more than a week and a half, though. Like, it was definitely not even a month. I mean, I remember going to one church service, but I could be wrong. I could have went to more. It seems like we block things out. I think it's something natural we do. Our minds do it because it's,
Right.
why live with that?
Right. Your body has a natural way of blocking it out.
Yeah, of making sure you don't go insane.
Right. Now, after the lawsuit, you didn't get any hate mail from any of the members of the congregation, did you, of that church?
No, I didn't. In fact, well, there wasn't a lot of anything really. I mean, but I was, again, when the lawsuit had ended, I got my first check when I was probably about 20 years old. So, and they had already been closed down by the end of the lawsuit. I think that CPS went in and closed them down probably just within a year of after I left. But I could be wrong. But it's odd to me. I always thought that once they were closed down, that would be it. Like it would be the sigh of relief. They're closed down, and now it's over, and there's not another child that's going to have to go through this.
Nope. Think again.
But it's not at all. No, because they reopened in another state. I mean, from my understanding, Miss Cameron can't have anything to do with it anymore. But that doesn't matter. That they taught these people how they want it ran.
Well, I know in the state of Texas, she's no longer allowed. I think she moved back to Georgia because I know Wiley Cameron died.
Yeah, I heard that.
But Wiley,
and what's crazy is that, okay, see, I didn't even know there was a Facebook page for this or for that home in general. And I got on there, and some of the things people are saying is like, are you freaking kidding me? Why would you go see that woman? Like, I mean, I get that if they broke you, they broke you, but God, once you were out, you would think you would never want to remember or relive any of that.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I heard a lot
But it was also funny, is like, I see things where they're like, a tribute to Roloff, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
I mean, I have a yearbook from 1982, and at the Christian school, and there was a page where it says, hold on to your flags, boys. The South is going to rise again. Right there should have told you, wait a minute. The South is going to rise again. Or these, and they, Roloff called Hispanic people, he would call them lubricanos. Now, we all know what that means. You know what I mean?
No, I have no clue.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I speak absolutely no Spanish and live in Texas. Go figure.
No, lubricano.
My husband does, though.
Right.
But no, it was proof enough to me that, this guy died. He died trying to free himself in Texas to be able to have this home. Didn't work, was closed down, and dies, right?
Right.
That should have been the end of at least his, But no, there was people right under him ready to reopen. They spent their whole life mission was to have these schools open in Texas and I guess all over the country, but Texas is the one that mattered to them for some reason.
Well, that's where Lester Roloff started.
Yeah, but can you imagine that's your life mission is to abuse children?
They were probably,
there are some sick people out there.
They were probably abused themselves.
You're probably right.
Because, like I said, I hate to go back to this, but there was another Roloff sermon where he's talking about his dad back in it was during the days of the New Deal, when Roosevelt had the New Deal. And he told Roloff because they had a cotton farm. He told Roloff to go and dig up all the cotton and then take the cows and kill them. And when you kill the cows, spread oil all over them, gasoline or kerosene. That way the colored people don't have themselves some fresh meat. Now, that's got to be something on a kid too. I'm sure he was probably beat. He was probably whipped, and that was just, he thought that maybe that's what the Bible said to do, and he took that and ran with it.
I think that in my personal opinion, and again, my own personal opinion,
Right.
I think the biggest issue that you have with any religion is that people are taking they're taking it and they're running with it, where it's just so strict to the word, even though, life evolves through time,
Right.
But then you have the other side where, but it's just the different churches that, they're like, oh, well, you can pierce your ears because we do that now. But they have nothing that says in the Bible that it's okay. And I'm not saying there's anything against piercing your ears. I have all kinds of piercings, or have. But, and then tattoos. I have tattoos, but does it say that? Yes, it does say that in the Bible, not to mark your body, right?
Right, it does.
So, but is that something where, we are taking what it says, that we're taking it in our own way? And
Right.
that's the problem with all religion.
Some of it's metaphorical, some of it's, literal.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, but to me, like Roloff and that side of it, and most of the religious based homes like this, they are taking it so literal that it's like, you're still living in, before Christ.
Right.
Like way back when.
Mm.
And yes, I think that I do think that you have to take things and you have to evolve with them. And that's something that some religions don't do.
Right. Roloff said he believed the Bible literally. In and out. Everything you need to know is in that book. So,
yeah.
I mean,
so
one thing,
and that's not how it works.
One thing
because that was written so many bazillion years ago that
right.
just doesn't make sense.
One thing I can say about
Roloff. You can't
Roloff,
take it that literally.
One thing I can say about Roloff is he believed what he meant. You know what I mean? He believed what he said. What he preached, he believed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of preachers out there that will say one thing and do another. But this guy believed it. That's what made him so dangerous. That's what made him dangerous.
He did, but at the same time, there's people that would think that flying isn't natural and that you shouldn't do it if you're going by the Bible. I thought of that because there's a plane flying over me right now.
And bats or birds.
And no, do I believe that? No, but you have people that are that believe that much, and it seems like the pattern in all of these homes is the main one is that they're isolating the girls or the boys or whomever, and they're making it to where they don't have an option but to do exactly as they say and believe exactly what they want. And it's 100% brainwashing.
Oh, definitely.
But in the way they do that, and this should be red flag number one for any parents out there. I don't agree with putting your children in boarding schools, but if you do, red flag number one is, why are they isolating your child from you? If they're going there to learn and grow as individuals, then they should be able to share that with you the whole time.
Were you allowed to make friends with the other girls?
I guess. I didn't really, though. I was more, the whole time I was there, I was trying to figure out how I was going to get out of there. And I was told that, that people had tried to get away before and they had installed this. And I was planning an escape. I was going to get out of there.
Right. Somebody jumped out of a two-story window.
It's crazy because I don't even know how far from Corpus Christi I was.
Oh, yeah. It's on Old Brownsville Road. I remember that. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I was going to get out. I just didn't know how. And I was planning it, and I would talk to the girls, but most of them, if I brought that up, okay, well, so why haven't y'all just left? How can they really stop you? then you've got one of the two. You've got one that was like, well, you if you say that, you're going to get in trouble. Don't say things like that. Or you got, well, like true stories where people had tried to escape and they got caught.
Didn't some girl jump out of a two-story window?
What happens when you get caught in that situation? You get beat.
Right. Didn't a girl jump out of a...
put in a room.
Didn't somebody jump out of a two-story window at one time?
I think I heard that story too, but I don't know. When I was there, the second floor was not even reopened yet.
Oh,
like
okay.
I went in like right after they reopened, like within a year.
Okay.
But I heard stories where like some girls got away and they and I don't know if this was meant to scare me by one of these girls, but they were like, yeah, they made it to Corpus Christi and they were like living homeless on like near the beach and just making ends meet, not ends meet, but they were homeless. And I was, in my mind, I'm like, well, I would never be homeless. I have friends and Corpus Christi is not that far from my home.
No.
Like my friends would have come and got me. And I mean, and family too. I mean, my dad didn't even know I was put in there until after I was there.
They're always going to tell you the horror stories all the time to get you to stay there. To scare you.
So I was like, okay, well, and from my understanding, the two girls that got away in this story or scenario, that who knows if it's true or not, but eventually came back. And that is the thing. There was a lot of girls in there that didn't have people that cared about them at all. And that, to them, that was a place to be, and maybe, no, it wasn't probably, but did they know any better? I don't think so.
Probably not. Did they teach you to sew and all that kind of stuff that a good housewife should do, as they say?
That's funny you say that, because the one thing I did while I was there is I actually sewed a plastic bag, like my blanket that my mom had brought me came in one of those, it's a comforter bag. They're plastic. And so I took that apart and made it into a backpack for myself. Because you could only have it if it was clear. But see, I already knew how to sew. I've always enjoyed sewing my whole life. I was making a quilt while I was there. But again, they sent me fabric, and I don't even know if I ever got it out of the package before I was leaving. But that was my one, like, saving grace. That's what kept me sane while I was in there, was sewing. And that Miss Cameron thought that was just so amazing that I enjoyed sewing. And that was like she tried so hard to use that as like a way to like become my buddy. Like it wasn't working this way with her. So let me try a different route. Let me try to become her buddy and see. And it didn't work, but because I thought she was crazy. And, but I took advantage of it because at one point while I was in that room and all that, they got me out because I was breaking them too. They're not going to ever say that. They would never admit that, but I was.
I'm sure you were.
And they let me out to call my mom because they thought that if I talked to my mom, she would be able to calm me down. And again, I wasn't even supposed to be able to talk to my mom yet because I hadn't been there long enough. And I talked to her and I was telling her, I said, Mom, you're freaking nuts if you think that this is normal. Well, and she's like, well, DeAnne, they're saying that you're losing your mind and you're acting like you've got the devil in you. And my mom is, I come from a background of like basically like, I guess, Southern Baptist, but not real strict. Like my mom smoked and drank occasionally. It wasn't like, we're not talking like Miss Cameron, how they live. And I was like, if you really think, and I told her this, I said, if you really think that this old lady right here is telling you the truth, then I don't ever want to see you again. And I said, I don't care if you leave me in here until I turn 18, but I will never see you again. Because they had my mom believing that I was crazy. And I mean, my mom met this lady one time. Well, I guess twice, because her and my stepfather drove, or I don't know if they drove or if they flew, but they went to Corpus, and then to there to see the house. And she was like, well, I went in there, and all these girls are in there singing and are happy. And I was like, oh, yeah, because you think that that's normal just because they are for 5 minutes while you're walking through the place.
It's an act.
And they're still kids. I mean, think about that. Like, even in the worst situations in the world, people are still going to find something to smile about.
Did you ever hear Faye Cameron sing?
No. Not that maybe. I don't know why. Was she good or not?
She had her vibrato in her voice was so profound. It's when she would sing, it'd be, I'm like, wow. I've never heard anybody with a vibrato as profound as hers.
There's the wonder of springtime and harvest. The sky, the stars, the sun. But the wonder of wonder that thrills my soul is the wonder that's only begun.
And it was funny. I laughed. I mean, I wasn't being blessed by it. I was laughing. I mean, this is just wow. And of course, Wiley Cameron. I think it was about this time, 98, 99. I was working at the Home Depot in Corpus Christi, and old man came over and he wanted me to help him, and I looked at him and I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, that's Wiley Cameron. And he looked awful. He looked haggard. He wasn't smiling. You could tell he was just, life had not been good to him those past couple of years, I guess. He looked really run down. I think that was...
I think I always felt that way about them. I never thought that they seemed like happy people.
No.
To me, they always seemed like miserable people. Just miserable.
Almost like they didn't want to believe what they believed. You know what I mean? Like they had second thoughts, but they just didn't want to let anybody know.
No, the reason that they did that to people was because they got joy out of hurting people.
Some people do. It's called, bondage and BDSM and sadomasochism.
See, I know that there are people, there are a lot of them too, that there are still a lot of people out there that think that they were good people.
Oh, yeah.
And that they did what was best for these young people. I mean, like I was saying, when I got on that Facebook page, I was in shock when, there's these two girls that went out of their way to go see Miss Cameron.
Huh.
No, I would never do that. Apparently even stayed the night with the lady.
Did she snore?
And, and she wore short, And that was another thing, what's the need for making everybody dress a certain way? That I do not get. I never understood that. You can say the whole, women shouldn't wear pants thing. I'll give you that one. Okay. But why do in all these places they have to wear this exact thing where they're almost like Mormon-like?
Do you want to know why?
Maybe it's not.
Do you want to know why that they didn't allow you to wear pants? Because Roloff said, long hair on a boy is rebellion. Women wearing pants is rebellion. That's why. It's all about rebelling.
Well,
because they know exactly what a lady's supposed to dress like. A nice dress, not pants or high heels to look like a hooker or something. They want a nice dress down below your knees, of course, And of course, I'm sorry. I have to say.
I mean, but it's almost like you had to dress. It's like a uniform.
Right. It is a uniform. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and my mom did her best to find things that I would maybe like.
Right.
But it's still everything that was there got thrown away. I didn't keep one thing.
When you had PE...
they could have just sent me back. In fact, I don't even know if they even sent the stuff back with me, if you want to know the God honest truth.
Probably not. They're not going to
It
waste...
might have just been left there and passed out to all those girls.
They're not going to waste money on the postage, I'm sure. When you were doing PE, did you wear those ugly, nasty pink culottes?
I don't think I ever did PE.
Oh, you never did. Because I remember back.
Again, I was only there for one day of school, and I got in trouble. Like the first
Right.
5 minutes I was there.
I remember.
I think I was there more than one day, though, of schooling. I just think that I blurred it out, to be honest.
Because I remember back
Because
in
then I think about, like, I know for a fact that there was, I guess, on weekends, I guess one day a week, or they got to watch a movie in there, and, you know,
Uh-huh.
so I remember that we got to watch a movie in there.
what movie was it? Do you remember? Was it?
Yes, I do. It was the one where it's talking about the end of the world. It's a Christian-based movie. It's talking about
A Thief in the
how
Night. Was it
everything goes down.
Was it A Thief in the Night or
and
A Distant Thunder?
Huh?
Was it A Thief in the Night or A Distant Thunder? I know they had those movies about the second coming.
I don't know. It was something like that, though, I think. But it had to do with the end of the world, like, you know, the 666,
Yeah.
computer chips being put into us. I mean, things like that.
That
Like,
scared the bejesus out of everybody.
that's what they were trying to do. They
Oh,
want
yeah.
to scare you, that if you don't believe what they believe, then this is what's going to happen to you. But, and I want to say, and I know that I made it through one movie night, so that means I had to have been there at least a week.
Uh-huh.
So, and I'm doing that in my head, but then I'm like, I want to say that the next movie night was when I was locked in the room, was one of them. So I want to say I was there for probably about 2 weeks. I mean, I made a backpack. Like, that's not a one-day task with sewing by hand. We weren't given sewing machines.
Right.
And, you know, I've been reading a lot where people are saying that they didn't have their cycle
Right.
anytime they were in there.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I wasn't there very long, but that's right, I didn't.
And now,
Which
Cindy,
makes you wonder, what are they giving you?
right? Cindy was you heard that one from Cindy, that podcast.
Yeah.
Where she
Well,
said
then I saw it on the website, too, on
Right.
the Facebook page, too.
where she said that the milk tasted like onions, and they were giving them vitamins.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they were giving them some sort of medication to stop
Well, and
their
she
cycle.
was saying there was something that they were giving she looked up something, and it caused for women to not have a cycle and for them to have seizures, and people were having
Right.
seizures in there,
Right.
which is really, I mean, that's really bad. Like, I don't remember anybody ever having a seizure, but there was this one little girl, and this is like my story that gets me. I wasn't there very long, but the way that she looked, even, it was like she was broken, you know? She was in foster care, and she was younger than all the other girls. I mean, she was a baby compared to me, for sure, because I was, 17, or about to be 17. I mean, we're talking weeks before my birthday.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe a month. Like, I was literally, like, 3 months from turning 17 to where I could have just left my house. Well, she was so young and so broken looking, but from what I got from her, she was in foster care, and her foster parents didn't care about her, so they put her there. And that they were still receiving the checks, they didn't come visit her. She'd been there for a while. They didn't send her things or anything. It was just so sad to me. And she, maybe because she was young, maybe because she wanted more attention than, some of the other girls, but she was one that was always in trouble. She was always getting smacked with the wooden thing. The paddle. I mean, always. Like, it was like every day she was going to get something. Something was going to happen every single day. But she just was so broken looking that it was almost like, I mean, I don't know this because I don't even remember her name. I wanted to say her name was Kelly. I went looking for her not that long, like a few years back. Like, just to know if she, like, made it out of it alive, and hopefully has found joy in her life. But maybe there are people out there that, it's like there's no joy, that being spanked and a beat would almost be better than not feeling anything at all.
And the thing is, some of those girls that went in defeated, as they say, came out worse.
Mm-hmm.
They came out worse than when they came in.
Oh yeah,
they may have been just
sure.
They may have been just defiant girls that disrespected or didn't listen, and they come out they become drug addicts and alcoholics, and you just made them worse.
Yeah, because they're trying to erase it.
Right.
Typically people that become drug addicts and alcoholics, it's because they're trying to forget. Something.
Exactly.
And I could see that 110%. I could totally see how that worked out, or how that didn't work out, how it ended up that way. That's scary to me. That there are a lot of girls out there that left that place, that left like that, just 100% broken.
I've had one girl tell me, "Well, why are you always talking about the bad stuff?" And I say, I'm trying to get people on this podcast that defend the Roloff Church, but nobody wants to come forward. It's always the people that are saying, well, this is how bad it was. That's totally fine, but nobody's coming forward to defend the Roloff Enterprises.
Well,
Nobody.
I think that people are starting to see that how ignorant they end up looking. The state doesn't just close people down for no reason.
Oh,
for
no,
one.
no.
That's there is proof that something happened for the state to have closed them down.
They make you take a license for a reason. Outside of my medical
records, there was the little boy's medical records, and they took him to the hospital, probably because he couldn't get on a plane because he couldn't walk.
Mm. They make you take a license.
You see my point there?
Right. They make you take a license for a reason.
You see it everywhere, and it's not just in religious-based things. It's anything. The people that are so ignorant to things that they defend, and then they end up looking so stupid in the end, because then something happens internally, like something happens to someone in their family, or they find out that someone in their family was affected by it,
Right.
But it's kind of like that. I don't even know what it's called, but there's that church where they go around saying that everyone needs to die. Come on, it says in the Bible to love one another.
Is that the one about the spaceship?
It's not your job to say that anything that I'm doing is wrong. You're not the one who gets to judge me.
You did not drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah. Exactly. And don't drink the Kool-Aid, please. Come on. That's always been a hard pill to swallow. Is it says point blank in the Bible, you are not to judge. You to love your neighbors. And that if you want to take something literally, take that literally. Because it's meaning everyone. It doesn't matter if your neighbor is a different color, or your neighbor is gay, or your neighbor is, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah. But it matters to them.
That, yeah. It's what your neighbor's doing on the other side of the fence, that's none of your business.
I wish they could see it that way, but they don't.
Yeah, and no, because they want to take literal things that are stupid to heart.
Then
you can't show your knees if you're a woman.
Right. And they try to help you.
Because that's too sexy.
They try to help you when you don't want help. Like I said, some of these girls, it was probably just a phase. The phase that would have gone away, and they would have become successful people. But you stick them in this home, you torture them.
You have that other end where it's these girls that have nobody.
Well, yeah.
They
there
have
are some.
Absolutely nobody. And the one person who's taking them in is the worst person that could possibly do it.
You wreck them more than they're already wrecked.
Yeah, exactly. Put them in a place where they don't actually have real love. Because that's not love.
No.
And, that one girl I'm referring to, she was young. I don't think she ever knew what love was. Being a foster child to begin with, it's not like a walk in the park.
There were some kids in there.
And then you put on top of that, she's being abused daily by this elderly lady that, you would think she would be like a grandma, sweet old grandma, little tiny lady.
No.
But no.
She's brainwashed as well.
Not at all.
I know they had kids.
Hate is all it is.
I know they had kids. When I was there were kids in the homes as young as 9. So they were taking them in pretty young.
Yeah, I think that was more the first time they were open. But again, when I was in, they were just getting restarted.
Right.
So there was probably no more than, say 20 girls there. And they remained open in Texas for at least another year before it got closed down.
Closed down again.
So
Well, that's good to hear.
I don't know. And also, with everybody saying how, they didn't accept money, that they only accepted gifts. Okay, well then how did they pay me and that other kid all that money?
Oh yeah, they got money.
And my mom. Yeah, like it was, and I'm not being nice here. It was a pretty penny. I think when they got finished paying everyone they had to pay, it had to have at least been 100 G.
Well,
so like, where did they come up with $100,000?
But do you think that would have stopped them? Do you think they would have said to themselves, okay, we've lost this lawsuit, we have to pay these people. Maybe we should kind of decide on maybe taking a different approach to the discipline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they didn't.
And,
sure.
Who knows? I don't know what it's like. Has anybody reached out to any of the kids that were in the home that's in Arizona? Is that right?
No, as far as I know, the Arizona home is still open, but I haven't heard anybody. I go to the forums every now and then that are on the internet, and it's only only people from the 70s and 80s and the early 90s and of course the late 90s, but nothing from Arizona. So maybe it's something I should look into.
Yeah, maybe we should. I mean, but then now outside of that,
yes,
I don't know if I agree 100% with the whole church and state thing. Like, I get why it's separate. It just leaves this really big loophole for these places. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that it's separate because churches don't have to pay taxes, and there's some things that leaves that open there. But then you have to think about these loopholes that they're finding in that, like this.
I think churches should pay
taxes. Because I don't
taxes.
believe that any person that is not, for one, they should have been trained.
Yes.
And none of these people were trained in how to raise children or how to, teach children and stuff. They just decided one day they're going to go work for the Roloffs. I mean, if anything, they were trained like they're Bible-wise. Like, it wasn't from, I'm saying like training like a teacher.
Right. No accreditation, no degree or anything.
Yeah. Or even that, like, you have to look at the fact that it's not even just teaching them, because you're physically everything. Like, they live with you even. And in the case like mine, I mean, I'm sure that there's people that were affected just from being in the school, though, pretty badly.
Oh, yes. Yes,
but,
there were people.
Yeah. I mean, but we're living there. Like, they have us 100% of the time. The only outside we have is that little space that, you know what I'm talking about, in between the home and the school.
I remember.
That's the only outside.
I remember taking the bus to the school, and there were girls that didn't live at the Rebekah home, but they were going to the Rebekah school, and they had to wear the same uniforms, the red or blue dress and the white blouse, just like all the other ones. They just didn't live there. And they were not happy either. You could tell that the look on their face, they were miserable. They did not want to go to that place.
Yeah.
That should have been a red flag right there.
But, yeah, probably. And that, I don't exactly get, because it would have been freaking hilarious to me if they would have had a parent come look at that place while I was in there. Because let's just put it this way: there's no way in double hockey stick that I would have ended up there if there would have been a child there like me.
Oh no,
because I am very vocal, and I would have let that parent know, like, you do not want to put your child here. These people are freaking insane.
You're pretty unique, DeAnne. You're pretty unique.
I mean, it's a cult, though, and
yes,
there are
it is.
people who join cults.
I keep saying
I'm
that
just
to
not
people.
one of them.
It's a cult, but nobody agrees. Of course, those are the people that are so ingrained. They've been raised Baptist their whole life, or raised a Christian their whole life. So that's all they know, and they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid to step into the dark side, or what they call the dark side,
defy.
To find out what it's like over there.
Yeah.
And that's sad. Oh, well, that just means, you know what that just means? It means more fun for us. That's all I say.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, to me, like, it just, maybe it's just my own mentality. And my husband, I can guarantee you he is just like me when it comes to this. But there is no way that they would have ever broke me enough to actually believe that they were good people. It's impossible. There's no way. And some of the stories I've heard from these other homes even, I don't know. I mean, but again, you're looking at a majority of the girls that end up there are already in a broken home or a broken situation. You know, they're being beat at home.
Right. Their minds.
Or raped. Or, you know, I mean, so, I mean, I guess maybe if, you know, I was raised that way, maybe, I don't know. I can't see it. And my husband didn't have a perfect life growing up. I mean, he was brought up dirt poor. I mean, I guess that doesn't affect you with the beating and stuff, but that's the person I know I can read his mind the most, where I could say that there's no way. But there are so many people out there that are still taking up for them. And it blows me away.
They're just not looking at the big
picture. And it's
picture.
not just them, too. It's the other homes, too.
Now, I'm not sure if the Anchor Home or the Lighthouse is still open. I don't know.
No, let's put it this way. I can't say that. But it should be. It was supposed to be that Cameron and them were not allowed to ever operate any sort of children anything in the state of Texas. So if it is reopened, it's, you know, they've had to have brought in another pastor anyways, because he's since deceased.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess if they brought in another pastor and that was their goal, is to reopen it, but I don't think so. I can't imagine. That's 2 times shut down by the state, you know?
I think it was Lester Roloff, and then Wiley Cameron, and then a guy named Crummy. I can't remember his first name, but they called him Brother Crummy. He was running the Jubilee Home and part of the Rebekah Home. He was a weirdo, I thought. He just had those eyes, those pedo eyes, as I call them. He had those short eyes.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy actually.
Well, that picture that they got of Cameron, that's in my article.
Right.
That is like, I can't believe anybody would want their child around that guy. He looks creepy. And I'll never forget this, that when I did that photo shoot, it was on 9/11, but she left, the lady who did the pictures for me from that article, she left Corpus Christi and drove to Houston. And so the day before, she had taken that picture of him, and she told me, she said it was so weird. He wanted to take the picture in front of Roloff's picture.
Yes. And he did.
That's what he wanted. Like,
with that big
not the cross.
Right.
Not, you know, like, come on, let's be real here. That's what you would take your picture in front of. You're a preacher. Let's think of God. Why would you want to take a picture in front of the pastor that you're now over his church? It just makes no sense to me.
Lester Roloff was the cult leader.
She said it was so creepy. Yeah, well, but he was closed down in Texas. I mean, that was just pointing the factor just a little bit more. In my opinion, and again, I wasn't there that long, I feel like they praised Roloff, not God. And I will never, no, there's not a person in this world that can convince me otherwise. I mean, every night they played him singing, or his, you know, I mean, like his sermons. That was what it was about. I'm surprised Cameron even preached on Sunday. I can't believe they didn't just play Roloff for you.
They could have, but I've heard some of. I have some of Cameron's. There's not a lot of Cameron's sermons online. I have maybe about 9 or 10 of them. And his way of talking is different, but his thought process as far as his preaching format is a lot like Lester Roloff. He always tries to say, well Lester Roloff would do this.
When he went under his wing.
Oh, he was. This was probably back in the early 70s, maybe late 60s. He was there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when Lester Roloff died,
I mean, from my understanding, he was like the associate pastor at the time
right.
of Roloff's death.
He was second in command, basically. And when Roloff died,
Yeah.
they had his funeral at the Memorial Coliseum. I remember because my dad forced us to go. Yes. We had to sit there for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
It was boring.
Why wouldn't they have had it at the church?
Well, because it was his graduate. They didn't call it his funeral. They called it his graduation service. He was graduating from life to heaven. So that was.
Oh my goodness, that's
yes.
funny.
And
it shouldn't be, but it is.
I mean, they have words.
My goodness.
They have words for everything.
So if she's in Georgia now,
as far as I know,
from my understanding,
uh-huh.
Cameron is. Then, so she's not associated to the other church then, or the other school then?
I don't think so. No.
That's odd. At one time, I hadn't looked it up in forever, but a long, long time ago, I would say it probably was at least 10 years ago. I looked it up, and at the time then, she was there, and so was the lady that was with her whenever the lady who kicked me. She was also there. But I think that at that time, it had gotten to a point where she wasn't allowed to deal with the kids.
Yeah.
At least Miss Cameron wasn't.
For good reason.
This would have been after the lawsuit and everything. So I don't know if she was ever, after that lawsuit was finished, because I could have sworn we put in there that she is not allowed to ever work with children again. That both of them, her and her husband.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the reasons we went ahead and because we settled on it and got that much. We didn't even take it to court.
Oh, they settled out. What? So if they settled out, what did they have to hide? You know, if you settle out of court like that, you obviously have something to hide.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But it was because, and the reason we did that is because, for one, that other child, I don't know. I mean, because his story, I would have thought his story would have come out too, because it was such a major deal. Because the story that I heard, and by the way, I'm hearing this from my attorney, who is also his attorney.
Uh-huh.
Is that, and again, I cannot tell you that this is true because I've never spoken to this child. But he and another little boy have gotten in trouble, and Cameron, Mr. King, and some other guy, I guess, that worked there, was making these two boys dig a hole, a grave-size hole, like measurements of a grave. And they asked to go to the bathroom, and they asked for water, and they were told no, and told no, and told no. And well, eventually they asked again, and this guy told these kids that if they jumped this grave-size hole long ways, then they can have water and go to the bathroom.
I heard something about that.
So this kid tries. Yeah, so this kid tries. I guess the other one didn't even try. He was probably like, that's stupid, you know. But this kid tried. He broke one ankle or foot or something. One of his legs was broken. One was sprained, and then one hand was broken or arm or something, and the other one was sprained.
Okay.
And so he was taken to the hospital. He probably never even went back to get his stuff either, because I'm sure that he was taken by either his parents or CPS from there.
Oh.
But yeah, and technically I piggybacked his lawsuit. They found my story, or well, not my story. They found it through the CPS records. They hired that attorney, and they were suing, and they brought me on to their lawsuit.
Who was doing the lawsuit? Was it Southern Poverty Law Center?
There was a guy. He was a lawyer in Corpus Christi. And we went and met with them, and we did all of our statements and everything. But it wasn't. I don't think it was through the state, because if it was state, we wouldn't have gotten money out of it. But I would have been young. I would have been like 18.
It may have
been. I really was. I was not worried about details. And to me, all I ever cared about was getting them closed down. And so I thought they would just close down. It wasn't until, 10 years later that I realized that they hadn't closed down. They just skipped states.
Well, technically, they did close down in Corpus, but they,
Yeah.
as Jesus did, they rose back up to to Arizona.
Yeah. Well,
So they're
I don't. I
resilient. I'll
mean, I
give them
guess they can do
that.
that, but
They're
it doesn't. At least the Texans aren't dealing with it. I guess I don't know. I
no.
mean, that doesn't make it any better. It's still children.
I looked. I looked.
But I could have sworn that in the lawsuit, the reason we settled was because they were signing something agreeing to never work with children again, and that they were having to pay all that money, and that they would never be able to open in Texas again. That place is like for sure gone.
Well, they just saved Texas a hell of a lot of pain. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, but it wasn't just Texas girls there, though. I mean, people were being flown in.
Oh,
I guess there's only maybe a handful of these homes like this out there. And, I guess most of these Christian parents, and this is my mom, again, they're like, well, I'm a Christian and you're rebelling, so I'm going to put you in a Christian boarding school, because that's better.
the state school
Then,
probably would have been better.
it comes out that I've yet to have anyone tell me, yeah, I went to a Christian boarding school and it was great. I mean, again, we have the few,
Right.
the ones but they're, even in the way that they're taking up for it, they're not saying that what they did was right. They're just saying that, they made it through it and they believe in God because of it, like
Yes.
the girl that shared a room with me, so to speak, the conjoined room, she reached out to me I guess a few years ago, or even maybe sooner than that. I think it was even, and I literally just read those messages again today, and she was like, I'm sorry that it was so bad for you. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't just me.
There's a lot of people.
Like, yeah, there was the other little girl that just was devastating to me. But and I guess because you let them break you, yeah, but that still doesn't make it right, So you think that if it was your child, you would be okay with someone doing that to them until they broke? No, you wouldn't be okay with that.
Some people are looking for something. They come in there and they're longing for either to belong, or to be liked, or to be loved, and they hear this speech that God loves you, and some people become true believers. They believe it, and they think that when Jesus came into their heart, they felt a feeling they've never felt before, and this is true, and somebody loves me, and like I said, they are true believers, and I believe that. A lot of people.
No, I believe that too.
But then there are some people who, like you and me, can see through their garbage and go, nah, you're not going to fool me on that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. But I couldn't imagine, what if, let's just say, what if they wouldn't have broken my rib and put me on a plane? I would have still been there for that year until I turned 18, right?
And no telling how much more damage mentally they would have done to you. Or physically.
Oh, yeah, I know, without a doubt. I could only imagine.
I mean,
I'm sure that me in that room would have been really close by the end of it.
When you had your ribs broke, that could have punctured your lung, and you could have died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
That's a serious
it is. But
thing.
Again, there are some things that I'm a strong believer in, physical pain. It really kind of only makes us stronger. And I came out of this and I came out stronger, and it didn't affect me, mentally. Yeah, I'm not comfortable, being in small spaces, but we all have our things, right?
Right.
But then there's some of these things that maybe if it would have went on longer, it would have affected me more. But, that kind of mental pain, like being sexually abused by people and things like that, that is different. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't fathom.
Oh,
you
yes.
know?
When
that would be, I don't even know. Because I feel like mentally, you break someone down mentally, then it's over. What more do you have?
Yes. Yes.
And I think that is part of how they have all these people that are still so strong. Like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Because they broke them down that far that it's like the only thing that they had to live for was that. The good that they were telling them, that they're going to go to heaven. You know, like, they're good people. That stuff. They have to hold on to that because there's nothing left to hold on to.
And either that or they're probably afraid to go back to the life that they used to have for fear
Maybe,
that,
yeah.
for fear that maybe they might be worse. I don't know.
Yeah.
They've been indoctrinated. They've been brainwashed. And like
Mm-hmm.
Papa Wills with the Bethesda home, they weren't blood washed and heart washed. They were brainwashed, plain and simple. And the same thing with the Rebekah home, like all of them, brainwashing.
Yeah. It
Same,
is. It's 100% brainwashing.
that's the same thing. Jim Jones, the
And
Moonies, all those cults out there, brainwashing. The Mansons, that's what it was,
mm-hmm.
brainwashing.
Yeah, I agree.
Plain and simple, and that's it. So,
Viking distance. But yeah, it's insane. I would have thought that after, and maybe now that these girls have gone on, Dr. Phil, maybe that they will, at least parents will at least get to a point where they'll look a little bit deeper before they put their kids in a situation like that.
that frankly, I don't think they should put him in a home at all.
No, I agree with you, and that's what I was saying. It just, if you're going to put your child in a situation like that, where I hope that I hope that parents do know that. I mean, I get that you get to a point with children, and that some children rebel more than others, and
Sure.
it's not my job to choose or to say that what you're doing is wrong. That's your job as a parent, but I just hope that people will be more smart to looking into things a little bit more, and just know that there are red flags that you're going to see. That, like, me not being able to just talk to your child for a month, that should have been a red flag to me.
Yeah.
Any place that you're sending a child, and I mean, like my kids, they never have gone a month without seeing me. Much
Mhm.
less a month without talking to me on the phone.
I have two children.
So, and the only reason you would do that to a child is because you want to take away that parent.
They think
you want to instill what you want them to believe.
install the Bible discipline. Yes.
Yeah, and that's how they're. And for some children, that's really devastating. Like, to take something away that they've never been away from.
Well, like I said, they're not going to
So
tell.
that's like right there.
They're not going
That's
to.
abuse right there, in my opinion.
They're not going to tell you the horror stories. If I'm sure when your mother talked to the Camerons or whoever she talked to, oh yes, we have God's love here. She's going to be just fine. They're not going to tell you that. You're not going to tell your parents that. Well, this girl here, we couldn't fix her. She just went nuts. Or this
Yeah.
other one jumped out of a window. This other one here tried to escape or commit. They're not going to tell them that. So
No, but the reason they're distancing you is because they're assuming that within 30 days or however long it was, that they would have me believing that whatever they wanted me to believe.
they're going to have you saved, damn it.
That gave them 30 days to beat the crap out of me or do whatever they were going to do to me. So that the next time I did talk to my mom, it wouldn't be bad. That would already be done and over with. You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, that 30 days, let's say, that wasn't a guarantee. Like, if I was not, if I was being a bad kid in there, I would have never gotten to talk to her on the phone. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Because they don't want the kids to tell the truth. And even if, they're going to hang up, because they will. Like, if you're on the phone and you say something that they feel like they don't want the parents to know, they're just going to hit click and end. But at the same time, the damage is already done. It's already kind of spit. At least half of it's out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what their fear is being caught.
Yeah.
And then losing money. Or, I mean, and I'm assuming
Losing
that if the parents aren't paying, then the state was paying probably.
Right, losing the support of their donors. Basically, it's
Yeah,
all when you boil it down, Deanne.
exactly.
When you boil it down, it's all about money. That's what it is. It's
Yeah, it
all
is.
about money.
All of them. And if you really look into it, like every single one of these, the major ones, they're living grand lives when they're not at the school. Like I think someone said that they lived on a horse ranch. Like horse ranches are not cheap.
No.
I mean, just think, you have to feed them.
That was Bethesda, yeah.
And they're not small animals. Like just feeding a horse, or several horses, that's a lot of money.
Right.
So where are you getting the money from?
Donations from their sycophants, basically.
And then most of them are making the people that live in it, like, us, we were cleaning it. It's not like they had maids come in and clean up after us.
It was a prison.
No, we had to clean up.
The prisoners cleaned their own place. That's what it was. It was a prison.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, there was people that were the girls. I guess I don't know. I mean, eventually you got on a work duty. Maybe some girls helped with cooking. And then that one that was on Dr. Phil, he was like working them like hard laborers, like they were building the places they were living in.
That's
like, come on.
Yeah. How was the food, by the way, over there?
Huh?
How was the food?
Oh, it was horrible.
Did you ever eat the lima bean soup?
I don't think so.
Oh.
But I didn't eat a lot while I was there either.
Every Wednesday, I remember clear as day. Every Wednesday, in the dining hall, they would have lima bean soup. To this day,
oh, yummy!
It was very. I can honestly say it was very good. I'm still, and I still eat it to this day. So that's actually one of the good things.
I don't like.
That
It's
came
weird.
out.
It's like I was saying. There's some parts that it's like I just blocked it out. Like I was always a pretty finicky eater, but and I remember that they gave us like, it wasn't like honeydew or something. It's kind of like cantaloupe.
Yeah, or watermelon.
I guess. I don't know. But, and I was like, I'm not eating that. It was actually the only thing that was edible. I think I probably lived off of, at the time though, I was a vegetarian.
Okay.
So I think I probably lived off of the fruit the whole time I was there. And maybe like salad. Because because it was, I've never been in prison, but if I had to say, I'm going to go with, it was probably a lot like prison food.
Slop.
Or school, like, school lunch food. Where you get the tray and has like a little bit of everything on it.
Yeah,
I guess because they hope you'll eat something.
The cafeteria trays, yes.
Yeah. That's basically what it was. And I mean, when you're cooking for, that many people, that's typically what it is.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, but I do know that something needs to be done. There are so many women out there that, and men, I mean, it's not just women, again, that they're really affected by this and they're just holding it in.
Yeah,
people are always like, I get messages at least like once a month. I get a message, hey, are you DeAnne from the Rebekah Home? And I have to, yes. And then I have to go through it all over again. Like, how did that affect you? Or, I've had people, well, I'm going on Dr. Phil about it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But, and I try to be as nice as I can, but there are a lot of other stories out there. Some that are probably a lot worse than mine.
Yes, but the reason why yours is so infamous is because you single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, you and somebody else took down the Roloff Enterprises. that was
Yeah.
something that a lot of
That's like
girls.
one of the proudest things that came out of it was, that's what I told my grandparents once we were done at the at the psych ward, and they sent me home, and I went home with my grandparents, and I told them, I said, if there's one thing I do with, like, in my life, it will be closing down that school. I said, because that is not right.
What took girls that were there previously years to try and do, you did it in under a month. You should be congratulated. There should be
That's sweet. I never thought of it like that.
there should be a DeAnne. There should
yeah,
be
I know it's really insane. And I mean, from the minute I was there, my only thought was, how am I going to get out of here? The whole time.
Right.
Like,
How
there
can I
wasn't a
escape?
moment that I was like, oh, it's not that bad. No, to me, that was not right.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to be locked in this place. And remember, I'm like 3 months from being 17. I could have, like, if I was at home and could just walk out the door, I could have left my house and went and lived with a friend, or, got a job and lived on my own. But, which I did do. As soon as in fact, it was the day before I turned 17, I left the house and never looked back. I mean, since my mom and myself, we have a great relationship.
Well, that's good.
She
That's
made
good.
a mistake. We all do it, right? She didn't know what she was getting me into, but there's a lot of women out there that they will never rekindle relationships because of going through that. But it was, at that time, there was no looking back. I think it was probably about a year before I even really talked to my mom again.
But at least you started talking to her again,
Yeah.
Because there's some people.
But that is another thing, though. When you go through any form of trauma at all, the only way to, like, come out of that, like, on the other side, is to move past it.
Right.
That includes forgiveness. I mean, a lot of people will not agree with me there, and that's also with, church. It wasn't church in general that put me through that. You know what I'm saying? It was that church.
The People's Baptist Church.
And
yes.
Yeah, it was that one church and there, again, there's a lot of them out there, so it's not really probably that one church. But for me, that's what it was. And so I had to come out on the other side and become a normal, great person, the best person that I can be, is I had to forgive my mom, and I had to go back to being the person that I am. And I do believe in God, and I do believe that, and yes, there was a long time when I was like, well, why would God do this to me? We can all ask ourselves that, though, You've been through something that you could at least say that to. And that's when I came upon the decision that it's, what I've been through is who makes me who I am today, that makes me the strong woman that I am. Had I not been through it, then who knows what I would have been. Maybe just some weak, like.
Well, don't.
The first thing that ever happened to me would have broke me.
Don't give Roloff too much credit. I mean.
Well.
I mean.
Well, you get my point, though. That's any trauma, though.
Right, but it never goes away.
You have to move past it, and to move past it, you have to be who you were, to an extent, And to be honest, there is not a person in the world that will ever make me believe that Roloff or Cameron are in heaven. And if I go there, and when I make it to heaven, and if I see them there, I'm going to be like, I'm going to revoke my permission to be here because I don't want to be here.
Oh, well, see.
Because I'm sorry, but no.
Roloff is actually, he's on the little house at Hallelujah Street. I'm sure you've heard all the Roloff sermons and all the songs on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, his sermons, oh my God! Like,
and the thing is,
I don't even think I could hear him talk again in my life.
The thing is, there's a website, Roloff.org, okay, where they're actually doing his sermons 24 hours a day.
Oh my God,
yes,
really?
yes. It's a
I
24
live that.
hour. They do his
Shoot.
sermons.
I can't believe that. That's insane. How do you have people that are still following you when he's been dead for a long, long time?
The thing is, every once in a while, I'll listen to some just to kind of see. I don't know, but I'll be walking my dog, and I got it on my headphones, and all of a sudden I yell out, "Are you crazy?" I mean, here I am talking to myself because
And you look crazy?
yes, everybody's looking at me like, "What's wrong with this guy?" I'm like, "That's not true." Yes.
I felt that way then, and I was a child. I mean, I know I wasn't like a child. No, I wasn't 10. But I'm sorry, but I'll never believe that at 17 years old or even 18 that you're grown enough to make really, really major decisions, okay?
No,
Like, you've got some living to do.
You're still developing mentally. You know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
mind is still
And
developing.
so even then, though, what he was saying to me was like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I'm
Right.
sorry for the F word. But it is.
The thing, well, that's okay. Hey, this is a free and open discussion. You can say what you want. The thing is, yeah, you were 17, and I think the thing was you were 17 or 16. You were too old.
Yeah.
You already knew the ways of the world, so to speak, as far as the secular part. If they had gotten you when you were 9 or 10, then you would have been moldable. Then you probably would have been
girls,
a
when
true
I
believer.
was there, they were, pretty close to that. I mean, some of them were older than me. I mean, there were some that were 17, and I want to say there was even some that were like 18. And I'm like, you can leave. Like, they cannot force you to stay at 18 years old. You're an adult.
Right. They were probably true believers. Their mind, they were broken, as you said. Their minds were broken.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of those girls, they left there and they had no skills. I mean, what, sewing, housekeeping? What are you going to do? They should have taught you how to balance a budget. They should have taught you, financial stuff, economic stuff, something that's going to help you in the real world. They didn't. They taught you how to be a good housewife.
And the schooling that they're giving you, like, to my understanding, it wouldn't even have transferred to a normal school.
Was it
like a college?
Was it ACE? Is that what they were using?
Something like that.
Was it Accelerated Christian Education? That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s.
Some colleges won't even accept that, I don't believe.
Maybe the Christian colleges.
Maybe,
like Oral Roberts and all the other ones. Sure.
I mean, with what's going on in our time right now, I might need to look into that and get my kids on it. Just joking. Because, there's a school right now.
Oh,
my goodness.
Before we go, you said they had the dividers. They had the dividers where you were, the school area. That was upstairs in that building behind the Rebekah Home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, with the dividers,
it was like a little cubicle.
Right.
When I first voted, my first time I voted, I had a panic attack because I just put myself back in the place that I was.
Oh.
The worst place in my life, Like, I didn't really have a panic attack, but, like, it was that moment of what the heck.
Well,
I had to catch my breath.
What I was going to ask you is, when you had to ask a question, was there like a blue and red stick that you had to put up on the top of the cubicle?
I think there was, actually, yeah.
That's what we had to do also. It was a red side and a blue side. I think one meant you were finished and the other one meant you had a question or something. But,
oh my goodness,
back in the 80s,
insane.
the teachers, anyway, different
there was
story.
only like a couple adults in that room, right?
Right. There was Mrs. Davidson and Mrs. Stagel. Mrs. Stagel had that red skirt on, and she had pantyhose with sandals. Oh, it was just a really bad time for outfits back in the 80s. It was terrible.
Yeah, I bet. They, I don't know, but at what point, why did the girls not all be like, we can take this lady, like, let's get together? That's one thing I've yet to understand. Like, once you got out the front door, I would assume you would be, I mean, I know there's a gate, but it's not like gated in.
There was a guard
It's
shack.
open in the front, isn't it?
There was a guard shack right in the front.
Yeah,
as
there
you
was a
come
guard
in.
shack, and there was this big guy that worked in there. But outside of that, it wasn't a gate though. I mean, it was a gate. It was like, it was just open
It was
area
open,
though. It wasn't,
right.
it wasn't fenced in, right?
Right. It wasn't fenced in. But they had that cemetery on the other side. The Memorial Gardens. I remember that. So,
I mean, because Miss Cameron was like, I don't know, maybe what, 5 foot tall and 5'2" and weighed maybe 100 pounds. Well, no, she was kind of thick, but still, but then the other lady that worked with her, someone told me that was her like adopted daughter at one time, I think.
I don't know. I know they had children, but maybe they didn't talk to them. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's not much
But
information.
I always was like, why are y'all still here? Like, let's go, let's take them. Like, really, I really think that the 15, 20 girls in there could have gotten at least most of them past her.
A prison riot. That would have been great. Attica.
Yeah,
Attica.
exactly.
Attica.
Like, I mean, and I've said that a few times. Like, why? I mean, let's make some honest decisions here. Like, you really think this is where you want to be?
Right.
Like,
There's
you're
always
just going to be okay with it.
There's always the sacrifice.
And to be honest,
Yes.
had I made it to my 17th birthday, I
Uh-huh.
would have found a way out by then.
And the thing is, you have if you were going to take over that place, you had to find out who was going to be the sacrificial lamb. And what I mean by that is, if there's 20 of you and you run out, the guard at that guard shack is going to catch at least one person. So
Yeah, he was a big guy. I don't think he could run very
yeah,
fast.
so you could have easily gotten out
But
of there.
yeah,
But then again,
yeah.
you had the congregation, you had the people working on the farm who probably would have went after.
Well, I mean, there's like, I could have given you 10 girls that I would have thrown up for being a sacrificial lamb, but I don't even know if I could have talked them into running
Yeah,
because they really thought that it was the place they should be.
yeah. So it was a good idea, but it just kind of fizzled out in the idea stage.
Yeah, well,
That happens.
apparently the rap songs did it for me.
Yes. Maybe next time you should play some Snoop Dogg. Next time, that probably would have.
Oh my goodness! And then it's so funny though, because now looking back, like,
Yeah.
didn't the South Park Mexican guy end up going to jail for like molesting a child?
I don't know. I never watched South Park. I never got into it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, he was this rapper from back then, and I'm almost certain that it had something to do with the child, but he ended up in jail. And I believe he's still in jail.
Huh. There was a
But,
guy.
I mean, that's neither here nor there.
There was a guy actually who was teaching at the elementary school when I was there. His name was, I think it was Tim Martin, but they called him Brother Martin. And he was, you could just tell, he would look at the girls, try and make jokes and make them laugh. There was something about him. And they finally caught him with one of the girls. And yeah, he went to prison.
Huh.
He went to prison. So sometimes you get that sixth sense. You know, you have to go with it. Go
I'm
with your
surprised
guts.
he even went to prison because, like, from my understanding, even like back in the 70s, they were like, I guess, apparently, the stabbing that occurred back in the 70s or 80s.
Right. Yeah.
So the girl stabs this other girl. They hid it from the state for like a year.
Well, I have to say that stabbing is a whole lot different than molesting a child. And of course,
Yeah, well, it is, but I mean, well, it is, but she could have killed the other girl, you know, and apparently that was planned. I read
Yes.
later.
actually, it was Ginger was talking about.
They looked
Ginger
at
and
that
Stacy,
as like, I'll stab you and I'll get out because I go to jail, and you get stabbed, so you get out because you got to go to the hospital.
yeah, actually, it was Cindy talked about that. Yes, she'd heard something about that. But
Yeah, and that's insane.
when you have to go to those extremes to get out of there, it's time
In
to
jail, it looks better.
yes,
That's sad.
it's time to shut it down. It's time to shut it
Yeah,
down.
it is. All of them.
When they're willing
All of them need to
to
shut
die or go to jail or prison to get out of there, yeah, shut it down. So
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true.
well,
And
anyway,
who would have ever thought?
right? Who would have thought that a church that people think would be, the last place on earth that stuff would happen, it ends up,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've always said keep your friends close, enemies closer. That's pretty much true.
Yeah,
So I mean,
that's very
and
true.
me, I've don't step into churches anymore either. I mean, I didn't have
You
it as
don't.
I didn't
Yeah.
have it as bad as a lot of those girls did. I mean, I got my ass whipped a lot by
Yeah.
the
Oh, well,
principals.
everybody did. I mean, but
Yes,
back even then, I mean, I will, and even today, I signed a note. My kids can be spanked at school. Like, they never will because my kids are too well behaved. But
right.
they know that they could be spanked at school, so that scares them.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, and back then though, every school was spanking. I mean, especially in the 70s, even all the public schools were.
Right, but what kind of spanking though? I mean, is it with your
Yeah, well,
hand?
that's the difference
Is it with
though.
a
Because
belt?
remember, those kids were going home.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, so the parents would notice if they had, their butts were black and blue.
Yes, there's different levels of spanking. When you're hitting someone with a board with
Yeah,
with holes in it so
that's
you can
not
swing
spanking.
faster, yeah, that's
No.
abuse. I'm sorry. I mean, I spanked my
Yeah, it
kids
is.
when they were younger. I spanked them, and of course, I
Yeah,
always.
I mean, and like I said, I don't disagree with spanking.
Oh, neither do I.
But every single one of my children have had to have their butt spanked maybe 3 times in their whole lives, and my oldest one is graduating this year.
Oh, my kids are already
So
grown.
I mean, it also has to do with the morals that we're giving our children, and maybe I'm lucky. Maybe that's where God's getting me back. He's like, okay, well, I took some of your childhood away, but I'm going to make sure your kids are great.
There you go. There she goes.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I mean, and it's funny because you hear this, and I saw that one on when I was watching the Dr. Phil thing. Is people want to place blame, especially when it's their church or people they know, and it's easy to say, okay, well, this was a bad child, and there was a time at the Roloff homes that the kids were being sent from court to there as that was their punishment. Instead of going to jail, they went to a Roloff home.
Right. Well, I mean, that was a little difficult to believe, and I'll tell you why. Because there were some kids that Roloff would say, "Yeah, this kid was going to prison for murder or armed robbery," but the judge said, "No, we can't make him do that. We'll send him to your home." I don't know if I believe that or not.
No,
That's
I don't believe that because that's there's a thing like
that's
rebellious kids,
right.
rebellious maybe stole something from a convenience store.
That's
they should maybe spend a little bit of time in jail, but not
murder and armed robbery. Yeah, those are serious crimes.
Yeah, I mean, but
so
okay, so yes, try to place some blame on me, please. I don't care. It does not affect me at all. Like, that's not going to hurt my feelings. Like, yes, I was rebellious. And yes, my boyfriend was selling pot. But at the same time, I was a kid. And he was 18, I was 17. It's not to be, I don't think he was 18 yet. And it wasn't illegal or anything. But my mom didn't know he was selling pot. And I wasn't doing pot. My mom was drug testing me. I never had drugs in my system. Like, that should have been enough sign for her right there. But she just, because I was rebellious. I wasn't like some of the other kids that were just like, okay, sure, whatever. If that's what you say I have to do, then that's what I'm going to do. No, if I wanted to do it, I was going to find my way to do it. But did she maybe instill that in me by never telling me no? Yes, she did. So that goes both ways.
Right.
Was it worth going to a boarding school? No. Or a boarding school where I was beat? Definitely no.
Cameron.
But then, so that goes, but people want to place blame. And I understand that.
Yes.
In fact, I'm dealing with it right now. Like, my youngest daughter has and this is very, like, open conversation, but, like,
right.
She has a Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes to my phone. Like, I'm logged into it. So every message that she gets comes to my phone at the same time as it goes to hers. And she's 10. Is that kind of young for Instagram? Yes.
Yes.
But with my older daughter, I didn't do that. I made her wait until she was like in middle school and all the kids had them. But what I found by that is that she was going to do it whether I wanted her to or not. You know, like she probably had a page already. She was just hiding it from me. At least this way, I'm seeing it.
You know
I know what's being sent. You know, like, so that got real bad recently because then some like 22-year-old guy messaged my daughter, "Hey, baby."
Oh.
And I was like, oh, heck no. So he will be in jail shortly. But that's the thing is he was also messaging my niece on hers, and she's the same age, and my daughter's best friend. My daughter's best friend's mom does not know she has an Instagram page, or is it? Yeah, Instagram page. So I had to call her mom and say, hey, just so you know, Ashlyn has an Instagram page, and there's a guy that's praying after our daughters on this Instagram, on this page. And so she had to go through her phone and find it herself. But, you know, that's where the difference was. She would have never known that happened because Ashlyn didn't tell her. She just made it and had it. But I knew, so I was able to put a stop to it.
You saved that child.
But that's what when I went ahead and posted that, and it's public knowledge now on Facebook that this happened with the whole story. About 50% of the comments were, "Why does your daughter have a page?" Okay, well, you're not her parent.
Right. They don't make that decision.
It's not any of your business.
That's your decision. Yes, definitely.
Exactly. So, and I said, and yes, and I even put it in the freaking thing. I was like, look, I don't need your parenting advice. I'm only putting this out here so that other mothers know that this guy is out there doing that. And some of these mothers don't know their kids have these pages. And so is he going to get to one of them before they find out? It is possible. So it needs to be known.
Yes.
But that's in everything. You want to place blame somewhere.
Yeah.
When bad things like this happen, it's natural for, like especially someone who like went to that church. They want to place blame at, well, that girl is rebellious. And if she wouldn't have come here, then maybe she would have ended up in, I don't know, on drugs. You get what I mean?
Right. Do you know?
By that, like, it's easy to place blame instead of blaming it on what it really is.
What really got to me was the one statement that Wiley Cameron said, which I think was what basically turned me around, so to speak, to go from the light to the dark, basically. He said, "Kids," and he looked us right in the eye and he says, "The secret to happiness is obedience." Whoa. Okay, buddy, you just lost me. That's the secret to happiness, obedience. So basically what he's trying to say is you obey these people, you do what they say, and you don't question it. No, that's not going to happen. Sorry.
No, that's the secret to his happiness.
Yes, that's the secret to his.
If we all obey and listen to what he says, and then he's happy.
I always say question everything. Everything.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that. Like, and some parents will like look at me and my oldest, who's, like I said, he's graduating this year, and he's tall, like he's a big kid,
right.
And we'll argue, but it's not an argument. We're debating something.
Yeah.
I will prove him wrong, or some very few times, but sometimes he will prove me wrong. But if you don't teach your children how to think for themselves, then how do you ever let them out of your house?
Yeah, they're not going to be prepared.
Like,
yes.
So they're going to end up in a cult by choice. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. End up being a hippie or something, yeah.
I'm a strong believer in that, if I don't know about it, I'm going to research it. I won't say anything until I'm for sure. And then once I do know, and maybe that's because I'm so like intertwined in anything political. Like, there are so many people in the world that are just like, oh, I'll just follow this guy. And I'm just like, no, you just won't, because you're a moron for doing that. Like, look into it.
Right. Look at both sides.
Take an hour of your time to actually research the stuff, and then maybe follow that person.
Right. The thing is, though, there's so much news out there. You don't know what to believe.
Yeah, exactly. You can't even read news. You have to actually go look it up,
Right.
like
There's
physically
so
look up
much
the stuff.
information. Yes.
Well, and it's like this COVID, like everybody's like, well, the flu, the COVID is more deadly than the flu. And I'm like, but it's not.
No, it's not.
It really isn't. I mean, and they're like, well, you're taking the numbers of the flu from the whole year. Okay, well, don't. Only do this year. In fact, you can go to Worldometer right now, and it'll tell you exactly how many people have died from the flu as of 2020, of January 1st, 2020. And the numbers of the people that have died from the flu are like right at the same as COVID.
Oh.
You know, like, okay, so how is it more deadly? It's not.
No, it's
it's just that you don't know it, and that's another thing. The flu has a vaccine, so why are there more deaths on the flu than the COVID? But there's no vaccine for it.
That's a good question.
That makes no sense to me. But anyways,
that's a question for another show.
Everything in life, like, don't say it until you know.
Yes, make sure you're 100% sure. Don't go in. Don't go in blind.
Make sure you've actually researched it before you say it. Like, I know I'm not saying that I do think that the whole social distancing thing is a smart way to try to lay off on the numbers. Yes, I think that's great. But is it worth us putting our country into probably the deepest depression of it ever? Probably not. Because I think what they could have done, just ideas, but is probably like closed off like all the nursing homes and things like that. Because if you're young, healthy, and also places where like anything, they have like other issues like cancer or something like that, where your immune system isn't as great as the others.
Yes.
Because that's the people that it's killing. Yeah. So let the people that have great immune systems, because that's another thing, is we're taking, so there's this virus out there, right?
Yes.
And our body, if we naturally put a little bit of it in our body, it will learn to fight against it, right?
It'll create antibodies, yes.
Yes, exactly. Well, by making everybody stay at home, we're not gaining antibodies for that.
No.
Do you get my point there?
Yes.
So when they do release everybody, let's say that it's still around, and I don't know, like maybe because it's summer it won't be, but it's going to make it 10 times worse because nobody has any antibodies left.
Oh, we haven't seen the end of this. I'm telling you right now, this is not over.
Oh, I know. It's going to go on for a lot longer.
Well, I mean, even after the stay-at-home order is taken out, it's gonna happen again. It's something. I don't know. I have a strange feeling, but anyway.
I think so too, but I have a feeling it's going to end up being that every year they're going to be telling us to take our COVID vaccines instead of the flu one.
I don't think so.
I don't take a flu shot though.
Neither do I.
The only time I've ever gotten the flu is when I've had a flu shot.
I'm not a sheep, so yes.
So and I don't get sick, but I don't put. The only thing I put in my body that's not natural is Tylenol.
Oh.
So maybe that's why.
Are you still a vegetarian?
No, when I was pregnant with my son, my doctor made me eat meat, which was really not smart. But I got so sick. I mean, like deadly sick.
Well, of course, because
so after that, yeah, it's natural, but
you shocked your body.
I never went back. I was like, nope. Yeah, I know. He should have just given me extra vitamins and things like that. But I mean, like sick to the point I have an iron deficiency from it and everything else. So no, I definitely eat meat now, and a lot of it.
Well, good.
But I don't eat a lot of the other stuff that, like, I don't eat things that are pre-made at all.
Right. Are you still in Texas, DeAnne?
Yes.
One thing.
Yes, we're in Midland actually.
Oh, Midland. I'm originally from Corpus Christi, and the only thing that I really miss about Texas, and I wish they had it up here in
Whataburger.
Yo, oh,
am I right?
A burger, yes. I wish they would have it. I wish they would have it here.
It's so funny because I see people. They're like, In-N-Out Burger's better than Whataburger, and I'm like, no.
No, up here in Wisconsin, they have, of course, the regular ones like Burger King and McDonald's. But Whataburger
Yeah.
would make such a
Yeah,
killing up here.
but see, you know that Whataburger got bought out by a northern company.
Right. Yes. They're
Okay,
gonna
so
be branching
it might
out.
only be a few more years and you'll have them there.
Oh, I can't wait. I
But
haven't.
well, yeah, you say that, and everybody says that, but I'm like down here, we're pissed about it because it's like one of the companies that's still owned by a Texan, or was until like what was that, like December, or it was last year. But the problem with that is that their food's not going to be as good eventually. The more of something there is, it's like they start to skimp on things.
Right. Right.
And so I don't see that. I have a feeling that by the time, if you ever see it up there, then it's going to be like, well, it wasn't even worth eating at it.
Oh.
You know? I
haven't had a Whataburger in like 12 years, and my mouth waters every time I hear about it. Oh.
No, yeah, that's one of the tops of everyone that ever lived in Texas. Like, we moved to North Carolina for a while. My husband used to rodeo professionally.
Uh-huh. Oh, really?
And we lived in North Carolina for like, I don't know, not even a year. And there was no Whataburger, and I hated it. And I don't even eat a lot of burgers. Like, but when I do, that's the only burger I'm going to eat.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Yeah, and because we don't eat a lot of fast food anyways, but if we do, that's going to be the one place we go to.
If I was a Christian, I would say it was manna from heaven. I'm telling you, that is. I don't know what they put in that burger.
Oh, well, if you ask my middle daughter, she would tell you her heaven will definitely have a Whataburger.
Oh,
she can't.
Yes.
That's her favorite thing in the world.
It's
like when it's cheer season and I just don't have time to cook. Every week that's what we would have after a game.
Oh, man.
And it got to a point where you can order it on your phone, and I just walk in and grab it and leave.
Oh, it would take about 3 days to get it up here.
So it's perfect. Yeah. Well, and with everything going on right now, you might be able to get it.
Probably.
Because who knows if it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, you really don't know.
Yeah.
And they said that they're going to start releasing some things, but I have a feeling that they're not going to be happy with the results because, now we're looking at 6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
At least of us, like everybody being at home. And so that's going to make the antibodies lower. So that means, and we still go to the grocery store, and we live close enough to a grocery store in Midland that we've been walking because being locked in this house it kills you.
Yes. HEB?
Tom
Thumb or something like that?
Well, no, it's not an HEB that's right here, but when I need like major stuff, I was ordering it online. Well, it got to a point where even at HEB, you could not order and have it delivered because they have too many deliveries going out, which is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they have the best meat products. Like you have to go to HEB for all your meat.
Well, if I ever make a visit down there.
You can't get a good steak anywhere but HEB.
I don't know. They got a place up here called Prime Quarter where you can actually grill your own steak, which is really nice. So.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
But anyway, DeAnne, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Of course, yes. And I just hope, I think I do hope that more girls will come out and tell their story because even if it's, kind of damaging maybe at the moment,
right.
It does make you heal better or it makes you heal in a way. To get it, to release it to the world instead of it being trapped inside.
Well, this lady actually who I talked to today, I'm not going to say her name because she's kind of squeamish as far as talking about this stuff, but she wants to, but she doesn't know if she can. She's going to, she doesn't know if she's going to be crying if she does it. And I told her, of course, this is the format and this is how it's going to work. And then the last thing she put was, I want to talk to my children. So, some people like we're talking about, DeAnne, are still just very traumatized. You know what I mean? They're just
well, and that's one thing that I learned from it is that by holding it in, it affected me a lot worse because for a while I did. I mean, yeah, I told my story, you know, when we were going through the court proceedings and then to the Texas Monthly, but that was right at that same time. And it wasn't until like, for instance, my first husband probably still today doesn't even know that I was in that home.
Okay.
But my husband now, but we're a lot closer in other ways. Like, he's my best friend, but he knows everything. And I mean, you ask him today, he still hates my mom for that. Not literally, but he thinks that that's horrible that she did that to me.
People make mistakes.
But it wasn't until and when I did that, I was able to heal. And I mean, I can have a service animal because of, you know, the emotional disaster that it put me through. There are times that, you know, and I'm not a strong believer in like I don't say don't go take medicine because there's something wrong with you. I'm a strong believer in that there are other ways to get through things, because to me, I feel like if you go and you start taking, I don't know, depressants and I'm not saying that they're bad, but I feel like then you're relying on something, and that's a chemical, you know,
chemical dependency.
That's like a drug. I mean, it's a dependency. So, but that's just me. And like I said, supernatural here. So like we work out, and I mean, like supernatural. But by talking about it, you're releasing it into the world to where, you know, and a lot of people don't talk about things that, you know, might hurt somebody's feelings, or maybe because they are worried what other people are going to say about them. People need to put some thicker skin on these days, like for real. Like I don't care who you are. There's not one thing you could say to me that's going to hurt my feelings. Like what your thoughts on me doesn't matter. That's not neither here nor there. I'm going to go on living my life, no matter what whomever listens to this thinks about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if more people live that way, it makes life a lot easier.
But
you know, and
it also inspires people.
Is one of the ways that, you know, and if you can't, you know, if someone's listening to this and they don't feel comfortable talking about things that they went through, then maybe find someone to talk to about it.
Right. Therapy,
because,
or
you know,
a friend, or
it
something.
does help. And the more people that hear this stuff, you know, the more likely that these places will end up being shut down, or they will, you know, hopefully at least some of the abuse will stop.
Well, see, the thing is, DeAnne, is like on the Bethesda home and even the Rebekah home, there is no, there's nothing. There's no podcast. There's no videos about people who were there giving their stories. There's nothing. There might be some articles and some forums, but there's nothing where you're actually hearing their voice and hearing what they're going through. So that's why I do this.
It's funny you say that, because, like, you know, when people are coming to me, they're telling me their stories too, you know, like,
right.
And, you know, when they were there, you know, such and such was stabbed, and, you know, and I'm learning this stuff out this way too, because when you type in the Rebekah Homes, the first thing that comes up is my article. And that was written like what? I mean, like, geez. And they're still, I mean, technically, I mean, they're still open. There's still one going. I mean, it might not be literally Lester Roloff now, but, or even the Camerons now, but they were taught by these people. So the only thing you can think is that they're running exactly the same way.
Yeah. I mean, we can only speculate that they're running it the same way. Of course,
well,
you know, with the times changing, they may have kind of changed their way of discipline. That way they don't get the suspicion from the state. You know, they don't want to draw up suspicion amongst themselves. That way the state doesn't come in and shut them down. So.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would be interesting to look into if there's any stories out there of that home that is there in wait, where was it? Where did we say that the new home was?
Oh, Arizona.
Arizona, yeah, there we go. I thought you said Arkansas. Is that going to go? But because there's no way, I mean, because I haven't done a lot of research into it, but I didn't realize that there was even a Facebook page for the Rebekah home.
Yes.
And I had said a long time ago that someone should make it, but I feel like that page is like more geared to people that came out of it thinking that they were great.
Well, I think
from what I was reading.
it originally started out that way, but there were more people that that had horror stories instead of good stories. So I basically just
Probably. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, but because there are still people on there talking about, the Cameron. Like, well, they're great, yeah. And I mean, no.
Well, some people,
But so yeah, there's always gonna be that, and
yes,
that's like it is. But that is worth looking into, because I said that a long time ago. I was like, well, I'm gonna get older and grow up and have my life, and then eventually, I'm gonna do some like damage to these homes, because if they're still going on, and they are clearly, somebody needs to.
And you did. You did
well, I did
damage.
that one. What about all the other ones? I didn't realize there was this many more.
Well, maybe your story today can help bring them down too. Once it goes on YouTube, people might start bringing back memories.
Well, I am going to look into that though, because I mean, no, I would never put my child in a place like that, but I was put in a place like that, so most people that wouldn't. But I know that there are still people out there that feel like they're at wit's end with their children.
Yeah. Can't control them.
And
the problem.
So there clearly are people that would still put their children in them. I mean, they're still open, and there's somebody still putting their child in it, right?
Well, I think maybe what they're thinking, I'm just speculating, that maybe if we send them to this home and they get saved, as opposed to putting them on Ritalin or Adderall and making a zombie out of them. You know what I mean? Those are choices.
Yeah.
Those are choices
that's
that
funny,
they have to
my
make.
oldest, and again, he's graduating, like top of his class graduating. And he was hard at times, don't get me wrong. But he definitely has ADHD or ADD or one of the two. And everybody was like, well, why don't you take him and have him tested? And I was like, because I don't believe it. That's my personal belief, but I don't believe that a chemical dependency is the right route.
All they're going to do is throw pills at you.
I believe that I can, so what I did is I made folders for him. And, every day that folder had to come home signed by the teacher. And if he had acted out or whatever, it came home like that. And so he lost video game privileges or, whatever, maybe even a spanking, depending on how bad it was. And it worked. And now he's graduating and about to go into probably the Air Force. And I mean, my son literally is a genius. He's been tested, but it wasn't because I gave him a drug that made him get through school.
Yeah.
It's because I put my foot down.
Sometimes that's what they do. Your child has ADHD.
But I'm not saying that it's bad to give your children, ADHD medicine either. Again, that's your decision as a parent.
Yeah, that's true.
I just, and there probably could have been a time that maybe I would have fallen in and given up if what I did didn't work.
Right.
But I mean, it's just I just strongly believe that natural is a better way.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just me, but
no, there's a lot of people out there that like to go the natural route. I've seen
how drugs affect people. Let's put it that way.
Oh, so have I.
And
so have I.
Yeah, and so it's not pretty. And by starting out with the drug, even if it's for ADHD or whatever, that can turn into its own issue with later on down the road. Then they lean towards, oh well, there's a pill that'll fix that. There's
a pill for everything nowadays.
Or so. And also, I feel like the medical people, the pharmaceutical people are making way too much money.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal opinion, so.
Yeah. Anyway.
But already, well, yeah, let me know if you need anything more, but I am going to look more into that other home for sure.
Yes.
And I'll let you know if I find anything out.
And I'll do the same if I find anything out.
Okay, yes. Please do. Alrighty, well, it's so good talking to you.
Well, just hold on the line there for a second, okay? I want to talk to you a little bit.
Okay.
I want to thank DeAnne for sharing her story today, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. So for all of us here at the Hammer Podcast, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Be safe.